Okay, in this video, I want to discuss using non-dual understanding to better understand duality instead of using that to try and escape duality, right? So what kind of happens, right? You can genuinely become aware of certain higher truths, but what can actually happen then is that you'll sort of become anti-life to a certain degree. Like, for example, I was scrolling through my video ideas. Like, as I've said many times, I have loads of video ideas, and then I have loads of different titles of things that I would cover and so on. And what I kind of realized, a lot of the titles and the things that I'm saying are true, but a lot of the reason why I don't even end up covering them is because they're a bit too absolute, which may sound strange if you haven't realized absolute truth or something like that, and that's what you're trying to attain. Then it would seem like you should go the complete absolute way, so on and so forth. And of course, in the end, like that's kind of your main goal, to realize the absolute truth, which is the truth that's always true, essentially the highest truth. The problem is, though, is that we are incarnated as humans, right? And we live in this dualistic world, this world of duality, the matrix, which is essentially created through ones and zeros, where everything is created and defined by its opposite. So, whilst we're alive as humans, we always will be operating in this dualistic plane. We'll be operating in this conditional plane, this relative plane, not the absolute. Even though we're always in the absolute, because the absolute is absolute, but from an absolute level, people act as if there's like lower levels and you can do actions there, and then the higher levels and you can do actions there. But really and truly, at the absolute level, no action is occurring. Like nothing is changing, nothing is happening. The truth is just being true. Like you can't act from your absolute self or do something from your absolute level or your higher level. Like that doesn't exist. Like you can only really operate and perform action and interact with the world from the lower relative dualistic plane. So if as a human you realize some of these truths, but then you kind of not like hold on to them too strictly, but you try to live by those realizations and those perceptions too strictly, then you may become anti-life. Because let me just give you an example. If you realize, okay, at the absolute level, everything is perfect, and every action we do is in a sense a corrective action, to where we have a misperception, to where we believe that the world is imperfect, it's incomplete, so I have to do something to correct it. So for example, you think as a human like, why are you going to work? Because you think that you don't have enough money yet, which is an incompleteness in reality, and you're trying to complete that. Most people have a goal. They think, if I hit 5 million or 10 million, then I'll retire or something. Or you're single and you want a girlfriend and you think, see, that's incomplete. That's not perfect yet. So it'll be perfect when I get a girlfriend, or so on and so forth. See, this is the goal-orientated society where we're always chasing goals, and then we think when we fulfill that condition, then things will be good, right? And once you kind of understand this and have this perception, then really and truly what would be most logical to do would be to do nothing at all. Like literally nothing. There's no rationalization to even like get up next morning or eat food. Like if you're like going to the extreme of the absolute or the non-duality, then there's no point in even breathing. You might as well just die right now, because there's no difference. So there's no value in surviving. There's no value in like being social, doing anything, living life. There's just no difference. There's no difference between like a homeless person and a billionaire. I'm not saying that a billionaire is better or worse than a homeless person or whatever. I'm just saying that from the absolute like lens, there's no difference, and there's no real like, you may become very demotivated. These things have happened to me as well. Um, and in a sense, you start to kind of become too identified with and skewing. You start to become like too skewed to non-duality, and then act as if all of duality is just all an illusion, which it is. Like, it is an illusion. Like, all of duality is an illusion, but it's still real and it's still true. Like, it's a true illusion. Sorry. And it's still an illusion that you have to deal with. As I've said in one of my past videos, it's a persistent illusion. You can see through the illusion, and now you'll constantly be aware that's an illusion, but it's still there. Like, seeing through the illusion doesn't make the illusion collapse. That's a lie. As long as you're alive, like incarnated in a human body, you'll still always be in this illusion. And the illusion operates on these dualistic laws, on these relative laws, on these conditional laws, which is how they even write computer code. It's a whole load of like axioms and assumptions, and where they write if this then that, like if then conditions. That's how they write like the AI code, the computer code. It's got ones and zeros, and it'll be like if this, like if it's a one, if it's yes for this, then it's a yes for that. Or if it's no for this, then it's yes for that. Or if it's no for this, then it's no for that. And so on and so forth. And it's very like mechanically, if this, then that. So once you start understanding the absolute level, instead of just like starting to become anti-life, to where you start saying, you know what, like, I don't need no material. I'm just gonna like be some homeless guy, give up all my material wealth. I'm just gonna like, I'll just sit there. I'm not even going to eat food. I'm not even going to do anything, because there's no difference. It's all the same. It's all perfect anyway. Like, instead of doing that, like, you can do that, but most people aren't going to do that. And most people aren't radical enough to do that, but they're going to be acting like on the surface level like they're doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still want money, but they're going to act like they don't care about money and shit like that. And then you're just going to kind of be lying to yourself and all this type of shit. Even if you understand that money won't fulfill you, like earning a bit more is not going to make you happy and all that, you can still understand all that, but you'll still be doing these things like subconsciously. So you need to kind of come to a level to where you understand, yes, these things don't mean anything, but I'm still going to like try and acquire some to live a somewhat like comfortable life, to have somewhat success and so on, even if these things don't mean anything, just because you want to live life. Life is to be lived, right? And in a sense, that doesn't actually contradict the absolute, because as I said, at the absolute, everything is itself. So yes, life is to be lived. Like, your life is not supposed to be like escaped. So yeah, instead of kind of taking these absolute truths, or the absolute truth, and then trying to like deny or escape all of this dualistic like Maya plane, and saying like, oh, I'm not gonna play the game anymore, whatever. You should use that non-dual understanding to understand how the dualistic plane works, or how the illusion works, and then you can operate within the illusion better. Because that was another video I wanted to make as well, is that actually in the spiritual community and so on, there's this kind of connotation or implication that they say, oh, everything's an illusion and so on and so forth, which is true, but then they kind of have this underlying like implication that everything that because everything's an illusion, or anything that's an illusion is wrong and bad. But that's also false. There can be good illusions and bad illusions. There can be enjoyable illusions and unenjoyable illusions, right? So you can still, this can be an illusion. You can be fully conscious this is an illusion, and you can still enjoy the illusion. It's like, imagine you was, it's like sleeping and you was in a dream, and then you started to lucid dream, and then like, and then you started saying, "Oh, but this is just a dream," and then you just try like reject it, trying to like wake back up and say, "No, no, this is all wrong. This is all wrong. Like, it's not even. This isn't real life." Like, no, you can lucid dream, realize it's a dream, and that can be like used to your benefit. Like, none of this is even real. That gives you even more freedom. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Like, because when you think everything's real, you feel like something's on the line. You feel like you have something to lose. Then you're gonna be more restricted. That's what restricts most people. And when you actually see that this is all an illusion, there's nothing to lose, nothing to gain, that actually gives you even more freedom and even more strength to do whatever you want, because you realize that whatever you lose isn't real anyway. It was never yours. And whatever you gain, yes, you know you're gonna lose it in the end, but you're gonna at least have experienced it. Just because you know, you're gonna lose, like everything that you gain, you will lose, and everything is impermanent. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy having it for that short period of time. And in fact, having things for a limited amount of time makes you appreciate them more. Um, like, for example, if you really enjoy eating pizza, or you really enjoy ice cream or whatever, like, you'll really enjoy it when you have it, right? But imagine you could only have ice cream or only pizza. It will actually make you sick. You would get so sick of it. Um, so yeah, so when you understand this non-dual understanding that at the absolute level, everything is itself, everything is perfect, right? Everything is complete. In a sense, nothing is out of place, and also everything is acausal. So there's no cause to anything. Everything is unconditional. Like, there's no like particular conditions that are making the absolute truth be absolutely true, because it's in its own nature to be absolutely true. That's why the truth is absolute, because only the truth is true. Like, it's in its nature. That's what truth is that it's true. Because if it's not true, then it's not truth. See, so once you kind of understand that, and that it's non-dual, that it has no opposite because it's absolute, then you can start to derive and understand how the whole dualistic Maya plane works, because you realize that duality is just the inverse of non-duality. So this whole Maya is just everything that the absolute isn't. So if the absolute is absolute, right, then the relative plane is relative, which means things can be true, but they're always going to only be relative true. It's only going to be relative to like what perspective you're looking at it from, or who you're asking, or what time it is, or it's like what century it is, what space it is. Like, something can be true in one country and not true in another country. Something can be true in 2024 and not be true in 2027, so on and so forth. And then you'll understand everything in this dream is conditional. Everything in this true dream is causal, which is the opposite of acausal, which means everything in this dream has a cause. If something happened, something caused it. So then you can start to derive, this happened, what caused that? And you can start to decipher. See, and you can take this non-dual understanding to actually better operate the dualistic plane, right? Even if you know it's all an illusion and so on and so forth, but you still have to live as a human, unless you're gonna like, you know, like, unless you're dying or whatever, like, you're still living as a human, so you still have to operate, right? Um, so yeah, that was the main point of the video, is that you shouldn't kind of like, your main goal, if you haven't realized the absolute truth, but once you like if you haven't realized it, your main goal should be to kind of realize that. But if you have, then it isn't really about just like you can be like, oh, ramen and mahashi and them and like, but look at him, like he just wearing like nappies just sitting there, just didn't say a word. Like he's basically a vegetable, and I'm sure he was in bliss states and so on and so forth. Um, but like at that point, you might as well be dead. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to be kind of like high level conscious, but you still want to actually enjoy life, live life, then you're gonna have to understand how the dualistic plane works, and you can't like do these spiritual bypasses to where, for example, you have a desire. Like if you don't have the desire, then cool. But let's say you actually do have a burning desire to, like, become, get this nice like prestige level job at this company, and then you know deep down on the ultimate level that it doesn't mean anything. Like no, there'll be no difference, so on and so forth. Like status is all an illusion. But then you see, you might try to say to yourself now, like deny that desire and say, oh, it's kind of like it's just like fake anyway, just an illusion. I'm just gonna like stay at my dead end job or something. Like nah, like see, like you can actually go and do that job, or like, and you can decipher how am I going to navigate. All right, cool. Everything's conditional. What are the conditions required to get to that job? Okay, the conditions are this, and this. So I'm going to do this, and this to get that desired outcome, and so on and so forth. And then you'll just be able to navigate more smoothly. You'll be able to understand how this whole realm works, and you don't have to necessarily like then like deny yourself all the time, um, because yes, you can always have that fulfillment. Like if you genuinely are realized, then you will always feel fulfilled no matter what situation you're in. But still, on the human level, your human like ego is gonna still kind of suffer that a bit if you keep on denying yourself. So like yes, you can realize your ego is illusory, but still you have to kind of operate with your mind and your body. You don't want to kind of go against yourself, right? So you can still like, let's say you want a beautiful woman, and then sometimes like you might say, oh no, but like beauty it's all an illusion anyway, and all of this kind of stuff. I don't need that. I'll just like so, but you're just kind of like denying yourself. Like yes, like you can understand that um, getting that girl won't fulfill you, or so on and so forth. But it doesn't matter. You can still just enjoy the ride, enjoy the illusion, because in a sense, like as I use many times with the sine wave and so on, it's like you have to learn. Like life is the sine wave, the oscillation above and below the baseline. So you always have peaks and valleys. And what the ego usually wants is peaks without valleys. But that's impossible, right? So either you're going to try and, like, once you've kind of realized these truths and so on, where you realize the absolute, which is kind of like the baseline that the wave is like oscillating above and below the anchor, which is zero, right? You're gonna try and you're gonna start to try and be too flatlined. Like you're gonna like try and escape the peaks and the valleys, because you're trying to escape the valleys, and then you're saying, all right, cool, the peaks aren't even worth it, so I'm gonna escape the valleys by not chasing the peaks, and then you try and be so flatlined, and that's cool. You can do that, but in a sense, you're dead. At that point, you're dead. There's no point of even being alive. So, if you accept that, I still want to be alive. I still want to enjoy some peaks and so on, like enjoy some experience, because the whole of life is that deviation from the baseline, that oscillation, that vibration. Um, so you're gonna have to accept that there will be some valleys, and the valleys aren't even that bad anyway. They're all temporary, same as the peaks, same as how we say, oh, it's like there's no point chasing good things and so on, because they'll all end anyway. But same with the valleys will all end. None of them last. So you win some, you lose some, and that's the balance. So like you don't have to like do what I say, but like you can try and just be flat, like totally flatlined and so on, but you're just gonna be kind of living like a robot, kind of just living like a vegetable, not really doing anything. Um, or you can accept the peaks and the valleys, realize, yeah, I do want to still experience that peak. I do want to experience it, even though I know it's an illusion, it won't fulfill me, so on and so forth. And I'll accept the values that come with it. I'll accept the cost, whatever the cost is to get there. Because in the end, if you're here and you're there, see, the whole point of these guys who like Brahman and Maharshi, why they just sit down in silence and don't do anything, is that even if you're here, where you are here now is exactly the same place as like where your goal is, right? Like it's equivalent essentially, like, so it may not be the same place like geographically or in time and space, but it's the same, it's equivalent to the same thing. So you won't really have gained anything. So therefore, if you want somewhere that is perceived to be higher than where you are now, you will have to pay with something, which is all that sacrifice and effort along the way. No pain, no gain, and so on. So yes, you won't really be anywhere higher or better or like have gained something. But if you like do want to attain that thing, which is like relatively speaking, in the dualistic plane, higher than where you are right now, you're gonna have to like pay with that with some. So it's gonna still equal to zero. If you, where you are now is zero and something else is zero, it's still gonna equal to zero. But it's still, you can enjoy the journey there, and you can enjoy reaping the rewards and all this stuff. So life is to be lived, you know. You don't have to deny yourself. And I feel like if we start kind of taking, even though the absolute truth is absolutely true, it's the most true thing that there is. If we start overlooking the relative truth of the relative plane, like if we start saying that the relative plane isn't even true at all, just because the absolute is absolute, then that is also kind of slightly false as well, because we're overlooking an aspect. It's like saying dreams aren't real because they're not physical, or emotions aren't real because they're not physical. It's kind of similar to like that. It's like we're saying everything that's not absolute is false, which in a sense is true, but it's like, see, there's no such thing as absolute falsehood. That's what you don't understand, is that there's only absolute truth, so there's no absolute falsehood. So there are things that are false, but they're like, everything that's false is only relatively false. Like it can only be false to a degree. Otherwise, it can't even appear. You can't even speak about it. That's why I always use Santa Claus and all these things as examples, because they're false, but they're somewhat true, because otherwise we wouldn't even be able to speak about it. What are you speaking about if it's not like true? You can only speak about something that's true, something that's there. So it may not be true in like the context or like the measuring stick that you're using. Like let's say we're measuring by physicality or by like existence or whatever. Like, see, like even non-existence doesn't exist. Non-existence doesn't exist. So if we're using like existence as a measurement, then non-existence isn't real, but it's still true, which means because we're even speaking about it, even though non-existence doesn't exist, we can still speak about it because it's true, even if it doesn't exist. See, that's why truth is absolute. People think that existence is absolute, or physicality or something. Like none of those things are absolute. They're all relative. See, so all of this kind of comes with time and understanding once you kind of realize absolute truth. But as I said, you want to kind of not leverage, but if you still want to live a decent life and so on, then you can't like try and like live your life by commandments of absolute truth, because you live in a relative plane. You live in a partially untrue plane. So you have to kind of also operate with that. That's why I've said as well that even like truth is so absolute that the truth is true and even falsehood is true. Because if you say falsehood is false, then it's true. So like either falsehood is false, which cancels itself out, leaving only the truth, or you say there's the truth that's true and also falsehood is true, and that's like relatively speaking. See that, and that's kind of what I covered in my why it's impossible to think you're ever like truly wrong video, which actually got the most views on my video, not surprisingly so. So yeah, I think I'll leave that one there. Let me know what you guys think.